Imagine this. It's a quiet Friday afternoon. Your business is thriving. You have over 2,500 clients depending on you and your team. Great customers. Things are rolling along. Your biggest worry that weekend is where to dock the boat. You come back from lunch and step back into the office, and then you see one of your top employees, face pale like a ghost, and you know something is just not right. And then you learn the hard real-life version of boom. Your entire business has been wiped out, not in days, weeks, or years, but in minutes. This isn't fiction. This isn't a drill. It happened to my friend and small business owner, Robert Cioffi, and this is his story. In that instance, his entire world vanished. Gone in minutes. All thanks to one of the most infamous ransomware attacks in history. So if you think you'd stay calm when everything you've built starts crumbling in real time, think again. This story is an emotional roller coaster with human resilience, inspiration, and even a showdown with the most notorious ransomware gang in history. Well, if you ever thought that cybersecurity was just an IT problem, trust me, by the end of this video, you'll realize it's a people problem. And as a leader, those are your people. It's your problem. Let's dive into one of the most jaw-dropping true survival stories in history. Small talk sucks, so let's dive in. Catch us on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn, and dive deeper at cybercrimejunkies.com. Don't just watch, be the type of person that fights back. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Host David Morrow. In the studio today, we have a very special guest, Robert Cioffi. Robert, welcome.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the invitation to come and share a bit about what happened to us with the hopes that the listeners will be able to better prepare for themselves for what may happen to them.
Robert, so welcome. So Robert, for those who don't know, please look him up, connect with him on LinkedIn, connect with him at his company, Progressive Computers. Let's start from the beginning. I mean, you have a phenomenal story. It's really heartfelt, and it gets past all of the kind of the standard media that we hear about ransomware, right? We always hear about, the code and things were exfiltrated, and cybersecurity people and IT people in general, we always tend to hide behind acronyms and hide behind the mirrored rays weren't doing. I'm like, that's fascinating for the minutia, but
there's a
reason
element to these when this happens. You see it when we come in post event sometimes, but there's a human side that there's an emotional content behind when events like this happen. And I think that's really, Robert, what your story speaks to.
Yeah, I mean, it totally is. If I can just pick up on a few of the little cues there. I was attending a conference over the summer where there was a speaker who, by the way, I admire greatly. I think he's brilliant. Somebody in the space that is tremendously credentialed.
You don't have to embarrass me like that, Robert. I mean, you don't.
You just come out and say David.
I'm in the room. You don't have to.
David.
It wasn't me, folks.
So
who was it? Do you mind sharing?
No, it wasn't. But I asked them this question because we were talking about this very topic of what makes the news in events like this, and whether it's typically we hear about a large enterprise. How could the CTO at Uber do this, or how did the Target CISO allow this to happen? And we over sanitize in the media, or when you hear stories going around and not understanding that there are human beings behind these stories, and there are a lot more facts and evidence behind the scenes that we don't account for. We've lost our ability, I think, especially with social media and technology being the way it is. And, here, this is coming from, an uber geek technophile myself. that we've lost the ability to empathize, or we forget to do so. Maybe we haven't lost the ability, but we forget to empathize, to understand there are victims here. I was a victim. My customers were victims. We didn't do anything wrong. A crime was committed. Can we start there, please?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little, because understanding the context in your background really sets the tone, because I'm first, second generation Italian American. Also, you born and raised in the New York area. You came out of school. You started this IT managed service provider, an MSP IT company. Actually, you guys were coders in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was 30 years ago. There was no such thing as MSP back then.
Right,
I was building applications in something called Clipper, which is a DBase variant using a
I remember Clipper. That's how old I am.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote tons of software from scratch. Some of it is still stored away in some file structure here. I got to go dig that code. Relive my past and remember that I was 20 once. But yeah, that's how we built this business, is basically building applications. And then it, went into Novell and, Windows NT. And, for many listeners, the rest of the story there. I don't have to bore you with the metamorphosis that happened slowly over those 30 years and the way the world changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you guys developed this MSP. What's the name of it, and how many?
The company is Progressive Computing Inc. We're an MSP based out of Yonkers, New York, which is just north of New York City. So, our primary coverage is the county of Westchester County, which is, that sleepy bedroom community of 1 million people outside of New York City. And, but, our reach is far beyond that. We have customers coast to coast across all 48 states, which is part of the story. It's an important part of the story about where our customers were and our ability to be able to get to them. But yeah, I mean, it's probably no different than many of the IT companies out there. Two college buddies, got together. My business partner and I are still running the business today. We're about to hit our 30th anniversary in February.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
So, we accept gifts. I'm a big red.
I know, that's wonderful, man. I love that.
All gifts are welcome.
All gifts are welcome. Yes. So, that's a very quick background about, what we are today and what our roots are. We were traditional computer science students from, college, with lines of code running around in our head and, aspirations to build a company.
How many employees did you guys have, and what type of clientele were you guys focused on?
There's no specific vertical that we serve. There are pockets, nonprofit, a lot of professional services, real estate has come up quite a bit for us as well, construction, things like that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Most business leaders have a fatal flaw which results in their growth being interrupted or stopped terminally. They ignore the mountain they're about to crash into, distracted by the focus on revenue growth. Until it's too late. Don't become another fatal business statistic. Keep your cybersecurity modern so you can grow without interruption. Stay competitive. Get NetGain. Stay focused on your growth and funding. While NetGain keeps your technology always available with expert-level cybersecurity services to stop breaches in their tracks, all at a fraction of the cost of managing it yourself. Don't wait for a technology disaster to interrupt and cripple your growth. Speak with a specialist today. Contact NetGain Technologies today at 844-777-6278 or reach out online at netgainit.com. That's 844-777-6278 and netgainit.com. Grow your business uninterrupted. Contact NetGain today.
And are you mostly in the SMB space, or do you have
mainly the SMB space? We generally try to start at a size of about 10 users and then go up from there into the 100, 150 space. That's our sweet spot is in, that 20 to 50, 60 range. Yep. And as far as employees, we're about, I kind of lost count because it's fluctuated a bit, especially post-attack. But we're about 25-ish again. I think we're planning on a couple of hires for the upcoming year. We're just still finalizing some budgets.
Great. Excellent. So you're a healthy MSP continuing on and for small businesses to survive for 10 years is defying all the odds, right? And then in a very burgeoning, growing IT space in a competitive market, right?
Very competitive.
This isn't Wichita, right? We're in New York, and so let's start at the obviously your MSP was targeted through a ransomware attack, which was very unique. Is that a fair statement? It was unique in the sense that, I mean, ransomware is not new, but usually they hadn't gone after the support providers in the past, historically.
Right. Historically no,
speaking, right?
But it's been theorized, and the theory has been proven, and we're not the first, by the way. The incident that happened with us was not the first of its kind, but it certainly provided another major data point in the not only the suspect or the suspicion of a trend, but the actual trend now developing is that hackers know that MSPs have the keys to the castle for not just one company, but for all of the companies that they support, right? So if I am able to successfully attack an MSP, I can potentially have hundreds of companies now at my fingertips. And obviously this is all through RMM tools, right? So we were, just for clarity purposes here, we were one of the Kaseya VSA victims on July 2nd of 2021. There were about 60 customers, and everything I'm about to tell you or will tell you, just really kind of two points about it. Everything I'm going to speak about is mostly public information, and I'll cite where it's not if I go there. And second, this is not a disparagement against Kaseya. I choose to come public with our story, not to beat anybody up, because I felt like we were a victim. Kaseya was a victim too, right? And like I said before, a crime took place. A criminal, did some really bad stuff to a lot of very good companies and a lot of very good people. So I want to just almost kind of start and end right there.
Right.
A 0-day exploit was taken advantage of in the Kaseya VSA product.
And explain to the listeners what the VSA product, and for those that might be listening to this as a podcast later, right? While they're driving, they're working out. MSPs are managed service providers. They provide different models of variable capacity, unlimited support for businesses, organizations, government entities, etc. And MSP is the acronym for managed service provider.
Correct.
The tools that they use to remote control, to monitor, manage, to fix, we call it remediate the organizations. The reason we're able to scale, the reason it's affordable is we're able to create incredible efficiencies by working remotely, by remotely doing it across clients, across, and we use various different tool sets. One of these at the time, very popular, it still is the Kaseya portfolio of tools. And so you guys were using these tools, and the tool maker itself, Kaseya, just to simplify it, right? Tool maker itself was compromised, meaning a criminal adversary got in and put some element that would allow them then, when those tools were launched legitimately through all of Kaseya's clients, which were you, right?
Correct.
To your customers, then it reached the end point, which was the actual business, government entity, organization, small business, etc. And then they launched their ransomware.
Yep. These tools are, just if I can add a little bit to that.
Please, yeah.
These tools are live tools, right? There's a piece of software that we install on every one of the customers that we support. It's called an agent software. That agent sits on that Windows or Mac computer. and allows us to do all of the things that you articulated already, right? The monitoring, the maintenance, and there's some automated processes that we can do that greatly make our lives and our customers' lives so much better, and allows us to deliver the service as you described at an affordable rate that makes sense, right? So we're the outsourced IT for our customers, so they trust us, and there's the important word. They trust us that we've are in care of their systems, and as a customer myself of a tool like Kaseya, we trust that their tools are sound, not only functionally and do everything that's advertised, but are secure. So the one term that hasn't been used yet, but a lot of people are familiar with, is supply chain attack, and that's exactly what this was. So the threat actor, the adversary, discovered a flaw in this software and then set out to find who is using this software. And we were one of those 60 some odd Kaseya customer victims that attacker was able to use in a malicious way to deploy ransomware to all of the endpoints, all of the people that we manage, right? Over 2,500 endpoints for us. Over 2,000 users that we support were affected by this. There's a supermarket chain in Sweden called Co-op. They are in the news, so I'm not telling you anything proprietary, and it's very public information. They had 800 stores across Europe. About 500 of those stores were shut down because all their cash registers run Windows, and all those cash registers were managed by a company like us who had Kaseya VSA installed on it. So they shut down, about 500 stores for about a week because they were unable to process transactions.
So let's
that's the magnitude of something like this.
Right. Now that puts it in perspective.
No, it's hugely impactful. I mean, it really is truly the supply chain, right? Because they're getting it at the core, and it's just affecting thousands all over. So let's turn to the day you found out about this. It was a 0-day exploit. So that's a tech term for it. It wasn't known in the industry. When we think of antivirus or firewalls, right? When you think of what ransomware is, it's a series of code, right?
Right.
Characters, letters, numbers, symbols, it's characters. And malware is bad code. It's code that harms or spies or does something that somebody doesn't authorize and doesn't know that it's going to do. And those things have lists of all of the known bad codes, and they block from them, right? And then here, this was a 0-day, which means it hadn't been known. Nobody knew that code was bad, and it got through to Kaseya. Is that a fair statement? Very simplistic terms.
I mean, if you read online, and again, I don't mean to disparage Kaseya by saying this, but the 0-day exploit was actually discovered a few months prior to the attack. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want the audience to understand that there are plenty of 0-day exploits out there in the wild right now on a variety of things that you may be using. But what's meant by 0-day is that only very few limited people know. A researcher, perhaps an engineer who discovered this fatal flaw. And you got to remember that software systems are very, very complex. You can't just write a new line of code, republish the software, and push it out to everybody, because that's not how development works, right? It's almost like making a structural change to a skyscraper and not really going through all the right testing to ensure that when I go put this fix in, that the whole building doesn't fall down. So they knew about it, and they were working feverishly to get a patch out for it. Interestingly enough, we were 100% patched on Kaseya up to the day of the attack. And, a patch was imminent. It was coming out from them. But this threat actor somehow, sometimes when researchers put or publish information out there quietly to a vendor, somehow that data gets leaked, or it's just discovered independently by malicious people who are just looking for holes. And again, it's not to paint Kaseya in a bad light, because Microsoft right now and Apple right now, Google right now, as well as everybody else on this planet, knows about flaws in their software that the public doesn't know about.
That's why we get updates. That's why we get patches.
Right. It's why updates happen. So this just happened to be one of those perfect storms where there's this major security hole, and the bad guys found it before the software company could patch it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, Cybercrime Junkies. Got a question that keeps you up at night, or ever wish you could hear from a specific guest, or have a true cybercrime story you want us to investigate? You can now text our studio directly at 904-867-4466. Don't be a stranger. Text us at 904-867-4466. Don't miss the chance to be part of the conversation. Text us direct at 904-867-4466. Yep. So turning to the day, what was the day that you first learned about it?
Oh my goodness. So if you
the day it's like burned in effigy.
Etched into your memory.
The day that will live in infamy here. So if you live in the Northeast or the Midwest, from what I understand, I actually haven't experienced winters in the Midwest or the North Midwest. I have friends in Minnesota, Iowa, places like that, and they tell me it can be brutal there, even in Kansas, right? Mm-hmm. So that, for half the year, the weather is kind of cold and either damp or cold or just not great. We relish the summer, right? The spring and the summer is really our time to kind of bloom and, shake off the winter blues. It was one of those, as the weathermen here in New York will say, and I'm sure in other parts of the country, one of the 10 best days of the year. The sky was cloudless. The temperature was like in the mid 80s. The air was not humid at all because it can get really hot and sticky here, right? And uncomfortable. So much so, the weather was so great. It was one of those rare days where we actually had the windows in the office open, right? It's either the heat's on or the AC's on. Very few times do we actually allow the breeze to come into the office. And the forecast for the next few days, including the July 4th Independence Day weekend, July 4th being that Sunday, this was Friday, July 2nd, was the same exact weather. Personally, I had a lot of plans. Actually, my wife had plans for us, along with some friends. We had 3 barbecues scheduled, none at my house, thank goodness.
There you go.
And a friend of ours has a boat, and he was going to take us, our 2 families, out onto the Hudson River, and we were just going to, have a great time. So, this is where my head was, right? It was on the weekend, on the 3-day weekend, and just really enjoying the glorious weather. And it was about, about noon. I usually, much to the counter to my health, I should be eating lunch every day. A lot of times I end up skipping lunch. But I was determined that day, I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to go to the kitchen and sit down. I was kind of in that more relaxed, jovial mood. And I was sitting in the kitchen, eating my lunch, window open behind me, sunshine coming in, joking with a colleague in the kitchen. And I see my director of ops ascend the staircase to the second floor where I'm sitting, turns the corner, starts walking down a long hall that I can see out the kitchen door. I've got a perfect line of sight down this long hallway, and I can just tell something was wrong. His gait, the way he was walking, his complexion. Listen, I'm from New York, so we throw around racial terms in a positive way all the time. He's Filipino, so he's dark skinned, right? But he's like pale as a ghost,
right? And so there was something about the body language.
There's something really wrong.
You could tell.
Right?
Clear to you.
And this was that moment. It was that proverbial moment in the movie. I hate to make it sound so cliche, where sort of the sky darkens, and while it was still bright and sunny outside, there was a mood that started to set in. My reaction was, somebody just died, and Jay is coming upstairs to tell us. Could be my partner, could be a client. Maybe a family member just called the office and, he grabbed the phone because he heard, who it was. I was a little scared. And I said to my colleague in the kitchen, I think somebody just died. It was literally the words that I said, and I was serious. I didn't mean that in a funny or in a
no. The tone had turned somber. You could tell something.
Yeah. So I sort of met Jay right at the threshold of the kitchen door, and he is like slightly shaking. Like I said, pale. I mean, he lost his complexion. And he wouldn't look me in the eye. Now, the thing you need to understand is Jay and I have such a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are very straightforward with each other. We're very friendly with each other. We know about each other's families. Like something was definitely wrong. And it started to confirm in my head that, something really terrible did happen. And this is where my head went, right? Like, in retrospect, what happened to us, while being really awful, so I don't want to undermine that part of the story, but it certainly wasn't the death of somebody.
Right. It was business. Right. It was a business catastrophe.
You know, listen, we lost money, we lost clients in the aftermath of this. That's going to be an obvious part of the story. And it was terrible, blah, 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 but nobody died. But so I grabbed Jay by the shoulders, and I kind of I needed to get the truth out of him. And I said, Jay, what's wrong? And he kind of fixed his gaze on me and said, Robert, all of our customers are ransomware. And I couldn't process that, right?
All of them?
Yeah.
All of them?
How do you even put that in context to process it, right?
It was a little too surreal. Like, and I even said to him, I'm like, okay, Jay, like, what do you mean all of them? Which one?
You've got to think he was exaggerating, right? Like,
it felt that way.
Yeah, it had like 2 or 3 at once, and seems like a big deal, right?
Or maybe,
holy cow.
Or maybe my self-preservation mode kicked in and said, I reject your reality, and I invent my own.
Let me reconstruct this in my mind.
So it was in that moment that I think he realized he needed to hit me with the sledgehammer, and he started to list our clients. And I think subconsciously, I've asked him about this, and I can't get a good straight answer out of him because I don't think he really knows. But I think he thinks the way I was thinking was that he purposely started to list off the large customers, right? The ones that would really drive the point, not that little ones aren't important. I don't mean it that way.
No,
but
of course, but
the impact of revenue and what it meant for the business, right?
Yeah.
And he started to list them. And as he's listing them, now my senses change. Now it goes to moving my head around in the open office, and I can see through different offices and glass walls and cubicles. I can hear and see people on the phone, and they're having conversations that are going something like this. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Let me find out. I think something big is happening. Let me get a technician to call you back. I'm really sorry. And people were stuttering. People were very serious. You could tell that they were dealing, when you look at somebody having a bad conversation with somebody on the phone, and you can only hear the other half of it, right? The other half that's taking all the heat. That's the way it felt. And I definitely knew right then and there at that moment, our RMM tool, that Kaseya tool that we use to manage all of our customers, must have been affected.
Right.
And it was in that moment that I started to feel a lot of different emotions. Dread, guilt was also another one. I don't know if it's the Catholic upbringing, but guilt came in because I immediately just assumed that we had done something wrong, that we had somehow allowed a threat actor to break into our systems, right? Like in my community,
you didn't know the details at that point.
I knew nothing at that moment. This is just my primal instincts, right? We have a Facebook group, like many people probably have in their communities, and people will post all the time, like, "Oh, my car was broken into," and people are always saying, like, "Look, the local police department keeps telling you lock your car, lock your doors." There are people who come around and try to open doors because they're stealing laptops, they're stealing electronics, they're stealing money, they're stealing whatever they can out of cars. And my head is like, hey, idiots, how many times do you have to hear this? Lock your freaking door.
Right.
And, it's like, why don't they still get it? It's like, this conversation's been going on for years. And I felt like that idiot at that moment because it's where my head naturally went. I never imagined that it would be a crime of an international scope and affect so many businesses worldwide, and that it would be something that I had done absolutely nothing wrong. I just felt as the steward, as the person or company entrusted to care for all of my customers' systems, and for me to somehow allow this to happen on my watch, that's why I felt so much guilt, right? Now, that guilt went away with time, and that time was only a matter of hours before the full story began to unfold. But those were my initial reactions. I was scared, quite frankly, I was terrified. I watched my business valuation kind of just evaporate on me, like within a split second, and I really didn't know what to do. I was frozen. Now
was you and your college buddy. You guys had been in business for.
Well, my partner wasn't there. This was my director of ops that I was with at the moment. My partner was actually out of the office at that moment. I think he was actually on a sales call, of all places to be at that moment. But I was really just feeling the sense that you won't find in any business book the term I'm about to use. I consider myself a fixer, right? If there's a problem, I can fix it. It's a car, it's something in your house. I just had a major leak in my bathroom. I ripped up half the bathroom and put it all back together again. People like, oh, so you know plumbing, and I'm like, no, I figured it out, right? Tyler,
the engineering mind.
I'm just where my head goes. Yeah. I mean, as a kid, my father used to make me, come in the garage and help him out all the time. So it's just, I'm used to this, right? And even in business, just being a computer scientist, like everything to me in life is a problem to work out. Even personal problems. I always feel there's an answer here, right? I don't have clarity, but there's an answer here. And I work through it. It's the way my mind works. But in that moment in time, I was so frozen. I had no clear path in front of me. I had no idea what to do.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So that people understand, so the listeners understand. So the threat actor was able to exploit this 0-day vulnerability. They got into your system, and then from there they were able to move to all of your ransomware them.
Yeah, because remember that tool is something that we use to manage all of our customers.
Right.
So if they're logged in now as an administrator, which is essentially what they were, right? They logged in and had full 100% control over all systems, just like my own engineering team. My own technicians and engineers, they have full access to that system, or had, because we don't use it any longer. But that's what they use to do their jobs on a day-to-day basis, right?
And from an end user standpoint, so Mark works at a real estate office, and he goes in to sit down in his cube and is going to log on the network. What does he see? How did they know? What would trigger them to call you?
So let me just maybe wrap up that part of the initial part of the story. So I grabbed Jay because I didn't know what to do. Right, I grabbed him and we went into my office where I'm sitting right now, and literally right where I'm sitting at this moment, looking at this very screen and 2 screens to the side of me. I have 3 monitors. I sat down and frantically thought, I need to try something. I need to figure out information. I started to log into these systems. And as within a few minutes, as I'm starting to my own crude investigation here and trying to just piece together what the heck is going on, it's almost like war is upon you, and there's fog and smoke and explosions and bullets flying and sounds that you thought you'd never hear, smells that you'd never thought you'd smell. And here I am trying to bring some sanity and clarity into this mess. And as I was sitting at my desktop, now everybody on their desktop probably has icons like that trash bin and a Word icon, an Excel icon, and an icon for some software that you use, right? The little cute blue circle thing that you always click on, and that starts your software or your CRM system. All those different icons started to turn into white boxes. Now, the technical person
on yours as well,
on my computer, and what a technical person will know immediately without me explaining is that's the telltale sign of the ransomware attack. Because what happens in a ransomware attack, what that software does is it starts to encrypt every single file on
moves
your
quickly
computer.
and it spreads like a weed.
Right. It scrambles all those files. And now Windows looks at that file and go, I don't know what that is anymore.
Right. It's not a .pdf. It's not whatever.
It's not a .docx or an XLSX or a PPTX, right? A PowerPoint, an Excel, a Word document. And so it just says, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to paint a white box in its place. So those icons, as I said, started to pop white, right? One by one. I watched them white. They all just started to turn
So
white.
you saw the ransomware as it was encrypting your own systems.
Correct. And then the second telltale sign is that now there is a readme.txt file, a text file, a plain text notepad file on my desktop that when I opened it, I mean, I already know forensically.
You knew at that point
in opening the text file, but that's the instructions for paying the ransom.
Right. Now, before your systems began to encrypt, were you guys able to remote in to your clients to see what they were seeing?
At that point, 100%.
Or you were just fielding the phone calls?
We were
because it had already happened.
Yeah. So forensically, this is what happened at 10:49 a.m. And I have proof of this. I have actual forensic evidence of this. At 10:49 a.m., the threat actor started their attack on us. What they did is they broke into the system quietly. We didn't know that they were there. They uploaded this ransomware software to our system as an installation piece of software. It was just a file. That's all it was. They didn't encrypt anything. They didn't do any damage yet. What we call this the payload, right? This is the bomb. They uploaded this bomb into the system, and then they told all 2,500 computers that we manage, download this file from the server that we have, our Kaseya VSA server, and then run that program on your system. So that's exactly what it did. That file immediately got downloaded to 2,500 computers, and those 2,500 computers were then sent an instruction to open and run that file. And that file ran, and that's how the encryption process began on all those, what we call endpoints, right? All those computers. So by 12-ish, when I'm in the kitchen eating lunch, having a good old time, thinking my weekend was going to be full of a lot of
fun and merriment.
Right.
By noonish, the payload had been
It had already been downloaded and running. And the way these things are designed is that they run in the background, and it doesn't sort of unleash itself till the very, very, very end of the process when it finalizes the encryption. And then that's it. By the time that happens, it's way too late.
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind as you began to see your own files begin to be encrypted? Because there you were trying to fix it, trying to understand it so that you can fix it. It's the same way my mind works, right? And while you're doing that, you start to see all of your own icons gray out, white out. So what was going through your mind? What I would personally lose my mind. So what was happening?
So two things, really. It's the emotional state of what I kind of had been describing, right? Is this, I meet with my wife on a quarterly basis to talk about our life plan, right? It's about our goals, our dreams, our aspirations, what we want to do with life, the kids, retirement, all these things, right? And the reason I bring this up as part of the story is because that life plan is inexorably tied to my business plan and my business goals and our valuation and my exit strategy from here. Not that I'm going away anytime soon, but all of that stuff is tied together. So the business plan helps inform the life plan about what's possible for us. And I just watched, in my head, both of those plans disintegrate. Right before my eyes, because here I am thinking 100% of my customers have ransomware installed on their machines that came through me. So there's the guilt, right? Even though I'm the victim. And so were they. We were both victims in this.
Right.
But I still felt guilty. I'm sorry. It's just my wiring. It's just the way I felt.
Sure.
And I felt shame, right? And I've been on stage plenty of times saying there really is no shame in victimhood. But that's what I felt in that moment.
It's a natural feeling. It's a natural human condition.
I wouldn't be a human if I didn't feel that way. And anyone to say otherwise is really, quite frankly, full of you know what, because that's a bunch of horse stuff. I felt guilt. I felt shame. It's who I am, and it's who we are. It's our culture, our values here. So, I kind of just like watched all of that just disappear. How am I going to recover from this? So all of that emotion was one parallel feeling that I was grappling with. And it was an incredibly heavy toll on me personally and professionally to feel this. But at the same time, another parallel thought was going through my mind, and that was math. I had a major math problem. When we, in our 30-year history, every MSP has an IT services company like me has dealt with a ransomware attack. It's just, it is what it is. It happens. Somebody brings a rogue computer into the network.
USB drive, something, right? They click on something.
Ransomware, somebody clicked on something. It's something new. Whatever. It happens. When that happens, it's like 5-alarm fire here, right? It's all hands on deck. We're all focused. We're all, we've got a plan. We're under control. We manage it. We know what to do. It's a process.
So you had dealt with ransomware in the past.
Sure. Every one of us has. Right. It's just it's natural.
Yeah.
Right?
I knew the answer to that question before I asked it. But I mean, like in the MSP business, this is a common threat. It's not something that happens every day, but you know how to triage it. You know how to handle it. Right.
It's like an ER getting overwhelmed, right?
Right.
And ER says, "Oh yeah, I got some guy that came in today. It's like his leg was hanging off and his arm was detached, and he had a big gash in his head, and like that ER doctor's like, okay, yeah, we put him back.
But this is the equivalent, but this is the equivalent to a mass casualty.
It's a mass
plane crash, a mass shooting. The ER is just overwhelmed.
So we were overwhelmed. Like, how do we, that was the question that popped into my head. The logical mind, the fixer said, how do I mathematically get to 80 customers that are sitting in 200 physical sites across 4 time zones, like now?
Right now.
Like right now.
Right.
And there's no answer for that question.
No.
Like, it's like, how do I carry 1,000 pounds in a 100-pound sack? You don't.
It's not going to happen.
Right. So we have to get very creative with our solution. And there's an entire thread of the story behind how we recovered about 95% of our endpoints in a matter of 17 calendar days, which I'm told is like, even for large banks to recover from a ransomware attack, it takes them 2.5 weeks. So we did what a large enterprise could do in the same amount of time. With
That's
a lot
remarkable.
of help.
Let's back up there for a second.
Yep.
So at the end of all this, you guys were able to recover 95% of those endpoints within 17 business days?
Calendar days, not business days.
Calendar
days.
Calendar days.
It was July 2nd, Friday. And
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Guess who didn't go to any barbecues or boat rides?
Right.
Guess who's plans were?
I don't know why you didn't go. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be on a boat Saturday, guys. This is your issue. You guys are going to have this. Try and have this done by Monday when I get back.
The story is even crazier because, and there's parts of it sometimes I forget, but one of our chief engineers, we got 2 guys that have been working with us, that we hired right out of college.
Yeah.
They're both 24-year veterans with us. These guys are technical geniuses. One of them, his father dies that weekend, and he's got to deal with a funeral that whole week. So I lost one of my top 2 guys.
Oh my God.
So not only did I have this gigantic, like, mathematical problem, but now it's like someone just, it's almost like, playing one of those card games, and that card comes out that says your main, resource to help on this is no longer in play. Like, just, pull them. Like, are you serious? Like,
right. Oh my gosh.
Like, really? This is what you're going to do to me?
Wow. And unbelievable.
So, the story is,
at what point, here's what, so from where you are, what you've described to where you're able to recover, at what point do you engage, at what point do you just pick up the phone and call like the FBI?
So,
or do you call your cybersecurity insurance provider? Like, who did you call first?
So I made a lot of phone calls. Some of them were to friends who I knew that were cybersecurity experts to try to get help. I didn't have a lot of clarity at that moment. And this is why tabletop exercises like role-playing scenarios is really, really,
so critical, right? Operational resiliency. You've got to go through the motions so that in the heat of the moment, when you have amygdala hijack and you cannot think process rationally, you at least have the game plan. You can go, here's the steps I have to take.
Yep.
Because we've practiced.
I mean, we did a couple of things. One thing was I pulled all of our team in a conference room and got them on the phone if they were remote, and basically just kind of gave them a pep talk to say, look, I don't have answers. I know you're getting pummeled to death. I know every line of communication is exploding on you, but I just want you to take a breath. We don't have any good clarity right now. We don't have a clear path in front of us, but I'm telling you that we're going to survive this because of our core values. And I recited our 4 core values back to them to make sure that they had a level set, a reset mentally to know that, team, commitment, humble confidence, and respect. Those are our 4 core values. We're going to drive us through this. And when I'm on stage talking about this to fellow MSPs, fellow IT people, I will often tell them our culture of all things was going to be a critical success factor in our ability to recover. And we just kept pounding that into our people's heads. Remember our core values. Remember we're a team. We're going to do this. Like we don't, even though it's not clear what we're going to do, we're going to do this. So that was one thing I did. I started to make some calls to some security friends that specialize in security. But then I remembered, oh my goodness, I have a cyber liability insurance policy and I probably should call them.
Right.
They assigned what's called a breach counsel, which is a horrible name because you never want to use the word breach. It has a legal connotation to it.
No, because there's levels.
Yeah. So if you're listening to me and you take away one little nugget, like stay away from that word breach, unless it truly is a breach, but let a lawyer tell you that and let a qualified lawyer tell you that.
Right.
But they assigned counsel, they assigned forensics. And by that evening, I had filed what's called an IC3 report. So if you go to FBI.gov, you can report your crime there, which I did. And I was contacted by the FBI. I sat on conference calls. I've spoken to them. I have a stack of letters from them in my drawer about the criminal, which was apprehended, by the way. And there's a little bit of that story I can share.
That's what we want to get to next is exactly who was behind all this.
Oh, I can tell you names. So
yeah. So you guys get to going there, and we don't need to discuss the technical aspects of how you guys remediated it. But at some point, I guess my question is, how did you handle the communication to the clients? Did you get on the phone with the business owners? You have like 1,500 business owners you have to get in touch with. Like, how did you address that?
So we set up different lines of communication. All of our tools were ransomware, by the way. Thankfully, our email is hosted at Microsoft 365, and so that wasn't affected. But we were able to do a little bit of self-recovery first. Physician, heal thyself, right?
Yeah.
We needed to kind of fix ourselves first before we can offer aid.
Plus, like being on the plane and the airbag and the air things come down, you have to take it before you can give it to your child, right?
Of course,
because otherwise I'm going to pass out in the middle of helping.
Exactly. And quite frankly, we had a 48-hour waiting period because our attorneys had advised us do not take any action until we forensically know what happened. So in retrospect, because I knew and I shared some of the details, 10:49 a.m., right? I could tell you those things only because that information was provided after the fact, right? But in that moment, we had no idea.
Right.
Were they there for months, a week, an hour? Exactly. We had no idea what our recovery point was, right? So it took us 48 hours to get that. So in that time, we were able to stand up some of our own systems internally so we can start communicating better. And we just set up a line of communication. My partner and our director of sales and marketing were kind of in charge of that. I took the legal parts of it and made sure that everything was kind of sanitized through them. Believe it or not, I actually pushed back on my attorneys because they gave us a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo to send out to our customers. And I said, if I send this, I'm going to lose all my customers.
Right. Yeah, right. That's exactly. I've seen that. I've seen that so many times. Yeah. And this is where attorneys really need to understand the business better.
Well, right? I told them, I explained to them about, I don't sell IT services. I sell trust and confidence, right?
Yeah.
Everything is built on relationships. I can't send this. So can we put this in plain English? And actually I gave them my version of it and they blessed it more or less.
Good.
And so we started to work that way. So even though there was a little bit of legalese in some of those communications, really
you need to do that. Put a link in the communication. Be like, for terms and conditions or details, click here, and then you can have all the exclusions and disclaimers.
And there were a few parts over time where I had to send communications out that I said, look, I really hate that this is a legal thing, but I need you to kind of sign off on this so that you understand like what my limitations and obligations are.
Right.
And most of our customers all of them were very fine with that, right? They understood.
Mm-hmm.
They understood.
Good.
So communication is a really important element. And I do have a presentation that I do on this topic, but I talk about the 5 C's of the communication plan, which is that it has to be clear, consistent, concise, counseled, right? And it has to be caring, right? You have to put some emotion into it. You can't just hide behind an attorney.
Yeah. Yep. That's good.
So the 5 C's: clear, consistent, concise, counseled, and what was the last one? Caring. Absolutely. The empathy actually is key here, right?
Yeah.
And
I was so we were all so numb from what was happening, but we had to remember every time I was speaking to somebody, okay, you're the 18th person in the last hour to get on the phone with me and scream in my ear with F-bombs every third word.
Right.
Like at some point, like you become so numb to that. Yeah. But I had to maintain oh my goodness, this is terrible. I'm really sorry. Like we're working really hard. Like I didn't do that just to do it for the sake of doing it. I had to put myself in that caring mode. So by the end of the day, we were just, not only were we working 16, 18-hour days to recover, but we were just emotional wrecks because of that.
Oh, yeah.
But that was really the initial part. I think, once we got past those first couple of days, people understood like me yelling at them and he is not going to make this thing go away. Right. And they started to really understand the full magnitude of what the heck, happened to them and to us.
Yeah. Paint a picture for people that may have to face this someday or that were curious. And that is, when you get a call from a client and they're all their systems are down, and for the first 48 hours, all of your systems were down. What happened in that phone call? Well, what did they say to you? What did you say to them in general?
There were all sorts of statements about
lots of emotion, I would imagine.
It was a lot. It was very, very emotional, right? It was, do you understand what this means for my business? Do you understand that I may be losing millions of dollars, that I could be losing years of relationships? And I'm like, I didn't combat that. But I also gently reminded them at the end, I'm in that same boat. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm a victim. And I really have to say that one of the things that I was very surprised about it, and those of us in the service industry, I think we're just so bent on like, I'm only as good as the last transaction, right? And we're so paranoid about like making sure that everybody is happy. But I had customers tell me later on, we thought about firing you, Robert, but we thought about it and said, you've delivered such great service to us over the years. You've always been there when we've needed you. And now that you've gone through this, I can't think of anybody else I'd rather face a problem with like this again than you've gone through battle. You have that experience.
Well, isn't that what this is all about, right? Isn't that the key message here, right? The moral to this story is unfortunately, it's not a one-off. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen to all the clients all at once, whatever. But compromises or bad scenarios like this are going to happen. And what this showed was your organization, your team's approach to it with empathy, with strategy, with counsel, and being able to show clients, see when bad things happen, we've got your back. We're going to fight this through with you.
And we did.
That's really a testament to you personally, your character, but also a testament to your organization, your organization's culture.
And the whole culture.
I appreciate that. We leaned heavily on a lot of community members that really stepped up to help us. And what I mean by community is our peer community from around the country. We had people flying in from almost any state that you can think of: Kansas, California, Vegas, Texas, Minneapolis, Florida, Massachusetts. I know I'm missing some. People drove in, people flew in because they knew that we were in trouble and that we needed some help. And being connected in a community like that, these are essentially my competitors, but in non-competing geographies. But they knew that. And as I have said on stage, even internationally, I was in Italy a few months ago providing my presentation on this topic to my counterparts there. And, the one statement that I keep hearing people resonate back to me is that I always say, when you attack one of us, you attack all of us, right? I can't combat the world's brightest hacker minds. I can't. I'm sorry. If you as a potential customer want me to guarantee that, I'm going to say I cannot do that. Impossible. And anybody telling you otherwise is full of themselves, and that's about it.
Right.
But what I can tell you is, as a community, we can stand and rise together. We can lift each other. We can help each other. We don't have to be adversarial with each other. We can selfishly say, David, you got hit. I don't know you, or I only met you this one time, but dude, if anything bad like this happens and you call me, I'm there for you. Right.
Exactly. So what percentage, after you guys get things resolved, and I guess my question is first, let me ask this, how many clients of yours were hit? Roughly 1,500 all at once?
Well, it was
2,500 PCs all at once.
It was 2,500 PCs across, and that represented about 80 customers.
Okay, so about 80 customers all at once.
Yes.
So how long until they were all up and running again?
Yeah, so we
calendar days. If you got 95% of them in that first 17
within
days.
17 calendar days. Sorry, I almost said business days. Within 17 calendar days, everybody was visited at least once, right? Okay. So some of our initial passes were, we need to get critical systems up. Please don't ask me to get the conference computer running, because we
right. It's not on the priority list.
What's critical? What's mission critical to your business? What line of business applications do you have that you need that are customer facing or revenue generating or whatever it is? Let's work on those systems first. What can you live without? And
that discussion is something that in a tabletop exercise you can set expectations, right?
That's it, right?
Exactly
right there.
Right.
Yeah. Is that and I think, while everybody tried to broker for getting 100% of their stuff, what do you mean? Everything is critical to you.
Right.
Come on, be realistic here, right?
We're
partners. Right. Help the next guy who hasn't seen me yet, right? That's still seeing that we haven't visited them yet, right? It's been 2 days and I need to get to someplace else. Right. So, a lot of people.
Did you guys get a decrypt key? Did like the FBI or somebody actually find the key, decrypt key? I always ask that about ransomware.
So what happened here is
the Holy Grail. Did we find it?
So the FBI was actually inside their systems for about 2 weeks because what they were trying to do is build a case against the perpetrators of the crime. And if they had released that decryption key, that would have told the hackers that law enforcement was already inside their systems, and it would spook them, and they would shut their systems down and fold back into the shadows. And people have asked me, aren't you upset with the FBI? Well, you see that flag behind me? It really means something. This was an attack on, I think our Western values and who we are as a society. And I feel if it helped build a case against the perpetrators and the FBI was actually able to do something about it, which they were, then I say, keep the decryption key. Don't tell me about it. Now, some of my customers were upset. Oh, they knew it. They had it. They could have saved us all this heartache.
I remember reading all about that because there's a lot of art. There's a lot of discussions around people being upset that the FBI had the decrypt key for a couple weeks. And that's not even why I asked. Actually, when I asked the question just a little while ago, I had forgotten that. Yeah. And then as soon as I asked it, and I was like, I remember this. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But because of their investigation, they were able to make an arrest. You mentioned it at the very top of the cast.
Yaroslav Vasinski is a Ukrainian national who, on October 23rd of 2021, you can tell that I've studied this, crossing the Ukraine-Polish border, was apprehended by Interpol because the FBI...
In Poland, right? They caught him in Poland?
Yep. They caught him in Poland as he was crossing the border from the Ukraine into Poland. We have extradition agreements with Poland.
Right.
Poland. So he was extradited to the United States.
And is he a Russian national?
I'm sorry?
Is he a Russian national?
No, he's a Ukrainian national.
He's a Ukrainian national.
Yes, okay. And he is sitting in a jail cell in Dallas, Texas. I can think of no better state in this great nation of ours for him.
Absolutely.
And I've often joked with the FBI. I joked with them once. I was like, hey, if you guys ever want to like go out for lunch or donuts or whatever, and you need somebody to like watch the prisoner, just let me know.
Happy to help.
Happy to help, right? A little bit of that street kid from Yonkers in me. And all my customers who are feeling that too. Like I feel like on their behalf, I need to commit a crime.
And now he's facing what? Potentially
114 years. His sentencing is in, I think, on March 20 something of 2023. So we'll see what happens. But here's a message that I want to make sure that everybody who's listening or still listening after I'm bloviating for about an hour here, that you understand that this is not the act of an individual, right? He had two other people that he was working with that I think are still kind of on that FBI list. And just like I don't manufacture Dell equipment or write Microsoft software, but in my business and wrapped within my services are 100 other vendors like Dell and Microsoft and Apple and all this other stuff, right? Hackers too have their own supply chains, right? So the guy...
Absolutely. He was one of the affiliates for one of the ransomware gangs, right?
So the ransomware gang,
which gang was it?
It was Revil Sodno-Kibi, which is actually run by some Russian nationals.
Yes, it is. It is our Revil, who we have several episodes on and have discussed in detail on, right?
So I won't bore you with his connection to the Russian government.
No, let's hear it. I want to hear it because you actually had this live experience with it.
Well, the leader of that group, which is, I'm drawing a blank on his name, is he's like 30 something years old. His father-in-law is the head of the FSB. Now the FSB is what those of us in our
the equivalent of the FBI for Russia.
Yeah, well, it's the equivalent of what used to be the KGB.
The KGB, right?
And so he's like a senior director there. So please, slap me in the face and tell me that I'm being silly to think that there's no ties back to the Russian government.
No, it's all independent, and there's checks and balances. It's not a totalitarian.
All above board, right?
It is widely known that this guy has 5 Lamborghinis. They're beautifully wrapped in all kinds of crazy color schemes. And one of his license plates in Russian, I can't read Russian, but I'm told that particular license plate translates into the word thief in English. So that's his license plate. And he's known to be doing donuts in like Moscow Square and all around, and nobody touches him. Like law enforcement knows, leave this kid alone.
It's like the old days in the United States with the outfits.
So maybe I'm embellishing on that story a little bit. I don't know. This is the information that's being told to me.
Those entities exist here as well, right?
They do.
And they definitely existed 20, 30 years ago.
So the point about this is that Yaroslav was not an independent. He didn't write the software. He carried out the attack.
He might have even bought the access to Kaseya from an IAB, from an initial access broker, right?
He subscribed to the access, and then he gets a cut of whatever payments are made, right? And that's how it works.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the wheels of justice actually worked in our favor this time, at least on the front line of the attack.
Well, now the R Evil group was taken down shortly after this past. January, right, or February? It was after.
Yeah, they went down 9 days. They went down 9 days after the attack.
They took their servers offline. Yeah,
which was highly unusual. And this was right around the time that the White House made a call to the Kremlin.
Right.
And apparently, I don't know, naked pictures of each other with farm animals were traded and said, if you don't take this, I don't know what, some backroom deal was done.
They had something because Wendy and they took down the heads of R Evil and we have a whole episode on the R Evil aspect, but it was true Russian fashion, right? Like busting down doors. There's videos all over YouTube. You can see cameras
in them.
Oh yeah. Like
so I don't know if that stuff is pomp and circumstance and video just to make the Americans feel good that,
a lot of people feel it was a distraction because they were, what they were about to do or in process of doing.
But they did go offline. And so that was an interesting thing, but they've been since back. I mean, they weren't down terribly long.
No, they came back. I think in April there was evidence of their.
All right, shut down for a while. Be quiet. We got you. We're not going to do anything to you. We're going to put this video together. You'll be back online in a couple months doing what you do. All right, take a little breather. You got a lot of money there.
Yeah,
what do you need? A Lamborghini?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, is that where the Lamborghini came from?
Yeah.
Great question. Well, this was
unbelievable. Yeah. So he's facing. So where we sit today, about how many of the clients that you had before this attack, what percentage roughly are still with you today?
It's got to be 85% plus.
Wow.
Some people left us for all sorts of reasons.
Well, there's natural attrition in MSPs, right? So every 3 to 5 years, there's usually a percentage that just go away for various technical
plainly obvious. We had some accounts that were sub 10 users that we were like, I got healthcare facilities, a nursing home with 60 users,
right?
And you got 5 people running, like whatever you're running. I gotta service them first. I'm sorry. We're talking about patient care here.
Right.
So I had to do and I say anytime I say by the way, it's really we, the entire team.
Of course.
Here is aggressive.
Yeah, of course.
We really had to prioritize some of the smaller ones. Like, look, I couldn't wait. I liked you guys, but I just couldn't wait. So I got somebody else and I'm just going to stick with them. Right. And so we lost those customers. I had one customer, actually quite a large customer, who their investors and their largest account that they had that represented over 10% of their revenue walked, and their reasoning to us was our customer didn't like what happened and saying that we need to change our service provider. So I'm sorry.
Makes sense.
Like, guys, we gotta go. Others, we just felt like it was time for a change. Mm-hmm. I think some trust or confidence was eroded, especially from those decision makers that I want to say are a bit more disconnected from,
that don't understand the technology.
Right.
They really don't understand this wasn't you guys. This wasn't you. Like
when we don't have that tight relationship at the highest levels, and I don't mean that like, hey, you might be a CEO listening to me right now of a 75 person company. I'm not going to sit there and chew your ear off quarterly for 90 minutes about, bits and bytes and tech stuff. I'm there to talk business, right?
Exactly.
I want to business too. I might be a geek on the inside, but I'm
still a business owner.
So you don't have to, right?
Technology, I mean, we talk about this all the time, and technology is a river. It flows through every aspect of an organization.
Of course.
So as you're going to build your business, we have to understand your business, because as you have an initiative, trust me, technology is involved. And so we just need to know, how can we configure things, support you, prepare for it, plan it out. There might be ways to save you money in your venture. Like it's not just about selling you more services. It's about really understanding the business.
It's my job to understand what your goals and what your challenges are. And then how do I align technology to help support those, either to support your goals or to help you overcome your challenges. And that's what it's really about. When I don't have that rapport at that senior level and we get pushed down to the office manager, we've got a great relationship there. He or she loves us, right? But you've got someone who's a little bit distant.
Not the same though, right?
I think you shoot yourself in the foot by not engaging. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be, a very boring technical conversation. It's not what it's about. It's about business. And how do we use technology to enhance your business? Right. So you're about to acquire somebody. How are we going to handle that? Right.
Yeah.
You have aspirations to double the size of your company in 3 years. How is technology planned and aligned to help you achieve that goal? Right. Because the systems that you have today may not support that growth. So shouldn't I know about it now?
Right. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. How's Progressive Computing? How's your company been since this? Have you guys solidified? Did you lose a lot of employees? You guys okay?
We had some. It was funny because we lost 2 employees due to just some natural attrition right before the event.
Oh, it was COVID too. You had a pandemic that was affecting
COVID, schmovid. We went through
it. That's the way I look at it. That's what
I suffered far worse, my friends. I'm here to live and tell the tale. So we had like 2 open positions. We were kind of casually looking. We were not in a rush. So we just decided not to replace those. We had one engineer that, oddly enough, it was circumstantial, had an opportunity to go back to a prior employer who threw some stupid offer at him. And we were like, okay. But we ended up replacing him within a couple of months.
That's pretty good. That's really good.
We ended up letting one person go simply because we started to also go through a little bit of a restructuring at that point. We took it as an opportunity to look ourselves in the mirror and go, well, how can we be a better organization? And when we did that, somebody unfortunately didn't survive that transition.
Yeah.
He's off
and that happens
quite elsewhere.
Yeah, of course. But overall, you guys are
we've added. You guys
are hiring now, and
we've replaced all that business with new, and we're in a hiring mode at the moment. In fact, I changed. I sat down with my partner one day and had one of those, I don't want to say come to Jesus moments, but like, hey, look, let's wipe the blood off our face here for a second and kind of figure out what do we need to do to make this so that's really helped us enhance our business. So, I mean, in a way, like, I don't want to say, well, I'm really thankful that happened to us. But, make lemonade from lemons, whatever that saying is. We just said, all right, look, I can't change the past. So I may as well use this as a catalyst to how do I get better?
Yeah.
No, and it sounds like it's really good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. On a personal note, did you and your wife's quarterly plans and your life plans get back on track after a period of time?
It's a little up and down. Kind of got put on pause. We didn't actually talk or meet about it for a while, but towards the end of 21, we resumed those conversations. Sometimes we're a bit better at it than other times. I meet quarterly offsite at peer groups. I actually do facilitation of other peers and helping them grow their businesses.
That's great.
So I'm a paid facilitator for that, which is great. It's a great opportunity for me also to grow as a leader. But I use that meeting cycle and cadence when I come back from those trips. That Saturday night that I'm back in New York, we use as what we call life plan date night, where we pull out the plan. It could be at the dining room table or it could be at a restaurant, right? We pull it out, we walk through it. How come I'm not, meeting my health goals, my workout goals, or I play guitar super badly and like that's on my life plan to not play as badly as I play it today.
Yep. I have the same life plan. My guitar's over.
His guitar's over in the other corner.
Yeah.
That's why I grew my hair out, because I thought I was going to be like an 80s rock star, but
like it would make you play better if your hair was longer.
Yeah, and then I cut it.
It does, by the way, Mark. It does.
It does. There is an actual scientific connection between
there is
hair.
Yeah. At least up in here there is. So so there's all, like we're doing well with that. Like I think my wife and I are pretty happy about like the progress there. I mean, listen, we can always do better, right?
Well, I mean, all of us can. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's things.
How were your kids during this? If you don't mind me asking, I don't mean to get too personal, but I mean, like, how were your kids during this? Like, were they aware?
Yes.
Their dad is involved in something like of international espionage and cybercrime. Like, holy cow, that's a lot for. I try and explain to my own children sometimes what we see and what we're dealing with, and they're like, if I get too technical, they get bored. But if I explain the emotional part, they're like, seriously? They're like...
So one of the things that my wife and I have always heard people comment about our kids is, wow, they've got like such an amazing vocabulary and they speak like they're adults, right? Because we've always believed into just like treating, like talk to them as I would. I'm not going to change my communication just because you're my child, right? I mean, obviously I'm going to not use gigantic words, but... we've always felt just be straight with them, right? And tell them what's going on. My daughter, my oldest daughter at the time was, I'm trying to do the math here. So she was a sophomore going into her junior year. She was home for that weekend from college. And, so she was all ready to have, to enjoy the weekend with us. And at the time, I guess my younger daughter was, I'm thinking she was 12. She was 12 at the time. And, she was also pretty excited about the plans because all these people that we were going to spend time with were, we were friends with them because our kids are friends. Right. But yeah, I mean, I came home that Friday night and I hadn't seen my daughter from college in a few months, and she was arriving that morning. Right. And she's just sitting there waiting for me to come home. And she's like, what happened, Dad? Right. So the other one was asleep. But, I spoke to them about it. They know. I was playing about it, but like I wasn't coming home throwing things up against the wall or cussing like a drunken sailor.
Yeah, they probably saw a very vulnerable side of their dad.
I was emotionally drained. I was physically drained. I just put it on the line. Look, something really bad happened, but Dad's got a great group of people at the office, got a great partner, got a really solid company, got wonderful customers. It's going to really stink for July. You're not really going to see me too much. Just got to give me some space. I just got to work through this, right? Yeah. And they've now since seen me, social media, hearing about trips I've been taking, doing keynotes. I got invited to go to Italy, all expenses paid, to go deliver this story. So like they're almost excited for me,
Yeah. Well, it really is a truly inspiring story. And to hear how you guys have recovered, both personally and professionally, it's just absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So Robert Cioffi, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, this will not be the last time. Yeah, this will not be the last time we speak. We will definitely check you out. We'll have links to Robert's company and himself on LinkedIn in our show notes. Thank you, sir, so much. Thanks for what you did. Thanks for the view that you had, the way that you handled this. It is honestly, it's a great inspiration. It's a great true cybercrime story that really knows that. It really is the human aspect of when a massive ransomware.
If I could just leave the listeners just with this final thought, and it's been a comment.
Absolutely.
Everything that I've said here, but please, if something bad ever should happen to you, and it doesn't even have to be a cybercrime, right? It could even just be something debilitating that's happened to your business. Don't hide it. Like, you got to get help. You got to seek help. You got to get the right legal help, the right law enforcement help. You've got to get the right technology help. You've got to reach out to, your customers. You've got to reach out to your friends. You got to reach out to your networks of people, and just put it front and center. And I'm telling you, it's human nature for those of us that really care for you to want to be able to step up and help you, right? This is not something to hide. Hiding it does not solve any problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great point.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks for listening. And we'll catch everybody next time. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Robert.